Ellie lay in the sagging bed, the quilt heavy as a sigh, her breath catching in the dark. The farmhouse groaned under the weight of autumn's first chill, its timbers creaking like an old man's bones. Outside, the wind clawed at the windows, a restless spirit rattling the panes. Then it came again, a faint scratching, sharp and deliberate, from behind the wall. A low bark followed, muffled, as if trapped in the house's throat. Ellie's heart stuttered. Her parents, asleep down the hall, heard nothing, their snores a steady rhythm against the night's unease. But Ellie, 9 and wide-eyed, felt the sound curl around her like a secret. It wasn't mice, as her mother insisted. It was alive, desperate, calling only to her. She clutched her stuffed dog, its fur worn to threads, and listened, the darkness pulsing with a truth she couldn't yet name. The farmhouse stood like a forgotten promise, its clapboard walls peeling under the weight of years. Dust hung in the air, catching the weak October light that slipped through warped shutters, painting the rooms in shades of ash. Cobwebs draped the corners, delicate as grief, swaying when the wind found cracks in the walls. Ellie tiptoed through the living room, her sneakers scuffing against floors that sagged like tired shoulders. Down the hall, the basement door loomed, its wood splintered and nailed shut, claw marks etched deep into the grain. A faint hum seemed to rise from it, not sound, but feeling, like the house held its breath. Outside, dry leaves skittered across the porch, their whispers blending with the distant howl of wind. Ellie paused, her fingers brushing the door's rusted knob, sensing the house was alive, guarding something, or someone, below. Ellie curled tighter under the quilt, her stuffed dog pressed against her chest, its button eyes glinting in the moonlight. The barking had stopped, but its echo lingered in her mind, sharp as a splinter. She was brave. Everyone said so, but bravery felt thin in this creaking house, where shadows seemed to listen. Her parents' dismissal stung worse than the cold. "Just mice, Ellie. Go to sleep." She whispered to her stuffed dog, naming it Courage, as if words could anchor her. Loneliness clung like damp air, a reminder of friends left behind in the city. Was the barking real? Her mind spun, conjuring images of something trapped, something hurting. She bit her lip, fingers trembling, not crying but close. Her heart a small fist pounding against the silence. If no one else would listen, she would. She had to. The stairs groaned under Ellie's bare feet as she crept downstairs, the flashlight's beam wobbling in her grip. The farmhouse was darker at night, its corners swallowing light like secrets. She stopped at the basement door, its claw marks deeper in the shadows, like wounds that wouldn't heal. A low growl rumbled through the floorboards, not angry, but pleading, and Ellie froze. Through a crack in the wood, 2 amber eyes glinted, wide and watchful, locking onto hers. Her breath caught, not from fear, but from a sudden knowing. This wasn't just a sound, but a soul. The growl softened, almost a whine, and Ellie's fingers hovered over the nails, sealing the door. Something waited below, something that saw her as clearly as she saw it, promising a truth that would change everything. Ellie's old life in the city hummed with laughter, her friends' voices weaving through summer streets, their bikes a blur of freedom. Now, in the farmhouse's shadow, that life felt like a dream, stolen by the move. She sat cross-legged on the attic floor, a dusty photo album open before her, its pages brittle as autumn leaves. One picture stopped her heart. A boy, maybe 12, grinning beside a German shepherd, both bright-eyed under a sun long gone. Ellie's finger traced the boy's face, her chest tightening. She'd seen those eyes in Grandma Rose's fleeting glances, heavy with unspoken loss. The move wasn't just a change of place. It was a severance, leaving Ellie invisible, her bravery a mask for the ache of being unheard. She closed the album, the barking in her memory louder now, a call to uncover what the house and Rose buried. Ellie's days blurred into a rhythm of routine, each step a defense against the farmhouse's weight. Mornings meant school, her backpack heavy as her thoughts. Afternoons spent sketching the house's crooked angles in a notebook she hid from her parents. Their voices drifted through the walls, Tom's sharp, Anna's tired, arguing over bills, never noticing Ellie's silence. She wandered the farmhouse alone, its creaking floors a mirror to her restless heart. The barking came at night, faint but persistent, like a pulse beneath the boards. Ellie pressed her ear to the walls, sketching claw marks in her mind, her pencil trembling. The house was speaking, she was sure, its secrets louder than her parents' dismissal. She wasn't imagining it. She was chosen, her loneliness a key to something hidden, something alive. In the basement's gloom, Shadow lay curled on damp concrete, his matted fur a map of scars, each one a story of betrayal. His amber eyes, once bright, now flickered with wariness, tracking every creak of the farmhouse above. Years ago, he'd run beside a boy, their laughter echoing through fields, his loyalty a shield against the world's sharp edges. A flashback burned, the boy's hands trembling, a man's shout, a door slamming shut, then silence, and Shadow alone, abandoned to this cold cage. Now, his ribs pressed against his skin, his growls more reflex than threat, guarding a heart that still ached for the boy, who never returned. The scent of Ellie's bread drifted down, stirring his hunger, but trust was a ghost he couldn't chase. His ears twitched at her voice, soft through the boards, a faint echo of the boy's call, pulling him toward a hope he feared to feel. Ellie sat cross-legged by the basement door, her flashlight casting a pale circle on the warped wood. She whispered stories of her city days, her voice a lifeline thrown into the dark. Below, Shadow listened, his body still, ears pricked, his breath a quiet rhythm matching hers. Both were strangers in this house, their loneliness a shared language. Ellie, unseen by her distracted parents, and Shadow, forsaken by a boy who vanished. She traced a claw mark with her finger, feeling the dog's pain as her own, a silent wound carved by abandonment. Shadow's eyes glinted through a crack, not fleeing her gaze, but holding it, a fragile bridge forming. Ellie's heart thudded, sensing he understood her solitude. In their shared silence, the farmhouse's walls seemed to soften, whispering of trust yet to come, a promise neither could name, but both felt stirring. Rain lashed the farmhouse, the autumn storm snarling through the night, rattling windows like a warning. Ellie crept downstairs, her flashlight cutting through the dark, its beam trembling with her pulse. The basement door loomed, its nails glinting like teeth in the gloom. She pried at a loose board, splinters biting her fingers, until it gave way with a groan. Below, Shadow crouched in a pool of shadows, his German shepherd frame gaunt, eyes glowing like embers in a dying fire. His fur was matted, scars crisscrossing his flank, and his low whine pierced the thunder's roar. Ellie's breath caught, the sight a fist to her chest, fear and pity colliding. The storm's fury mirrored her racing heart, urging her forward. This wasn't just a dog, it was a life, begging her to act. Ellie froze. The open basement door a yawning mouth, Shadow's eyes pinning her in place. Her mind screamed to run. His size, his scars, the wildness in his stare could mean danger. Her parents' voices echoed, "Stay out of trouble, Ellie." But the photo of the boy and his dog flashed in her memory, his smile so like Grandma Rose's, stirring a pang she couldn't name. What if no one helped him? What if he was left to die? Her hands shook, clutching the flashlight like a lifeline. Shadow's whimper, soft as a sigh, cut through her fear, a plea that felt like her own unspoken loneliness. Logic battled empathy, but those eyes, haunted, trusting only her, tipped the scale. She couldn't walk away. Not now. Not ever. Ellie's hands trembled as she tore a chunk of bread from her sandwich, the crust crumbling in her grip. She tossed it gently into the basement's dark maw, the piece landing with a soft thud on the concrete. Shadow's eyes flicked to it, his body rigid, ears twitching at the storm's howl outside. Ellie's voice quavered, whispering, "It's okay. I won't hurt you." Her heart pounded, half expecting him to lunge, half hoping he'd move. He didn't. The bread sat untouched, a small offering in the gloom. She edged closer, prying another board loose, the nails screeching like a warning. Shadow's gaze locked on her, not with menace, but with a question, his whine barely audible. Ellie's breath steadied. This was reckless, but it was right. She was his only chance, and she wouldn't turn back. Ellie knelt by the basement stairs, a chipped bowl of water in her hands, her whispers soft as the rain's fading patter. "Come on, boy," she coaxed, sliding the bowl forward. Shadow inched up the steps, limping, his scarred frame catching the flashlight's glow. He paused, nose twitching, then lapped at the water, eyes never leaving her. Ellie's chest warmed, a spark against the farmhouse's chill. She sat still, afraid to break the moment, as Shadow's tail gave a single hesitant flick. He didn't retreat, didn't growl, just watched her with a gaze that felt like a promise. Ellie's fingers curled, resisting the urge to reach out. In that quiet, beneath the creaking house, a bond took root. Fragile, unspoken, but real. She wouldn't leave him, and somehow, he knew it. Shadow claimed a corner of the barn, where hay dust swirled in the slanted autumn light. His body hunched against the rough-hewn wall. His amber eyes tracked Ellie's every move, narrowing when her parents' footsteps crunched outside. A low growl rumbled in his throat as Tom's shadow passed the door, his scars taut under matted fur, a map of old betrayals. Ellie sat cross-legged on a hay bale, a safe distance away, her book open to a fairy tale she read aloud in a soft, steady voice. The words floated, unanswered, but Shadow's ears flicked, his gaze softening just enough to notice. She didn't push closer, didn't reach out, sensing his need for space mirrored her own. The barn's silence held them both, a fragile truce between two wary hearts. The farmhouse's secrets still whispering in the walls beyond. Ellie slid a cracked ceramic bowl across the barn floor, its edges chipped like her own fleeting courage. Inside, a slice of her dinner, roast beef and bread, gleamed faintly in the dim light. Shadow's nose twitched, his eyes darting from the bowl to her face, wary but drawn. He inched forward, claws scraping the wood, and ate, his gaze never leaving her. Ellie sat still, her breath shallow, their silence a conversation carved in glances. A memory flickered. Shadow as a pup, eating from a boy's hand under a summer sky. Trust unbroken then. Now, the cracked bowl linked them, a small bridge over their shared wounds. Ellie's fingers curled in her lap, her heart aching with recognition. His hunger was hers, not for food, but for someone to stay. Shadow licked the bowl clean, watching her, a spark of trust glinting in his eyes. Ellie's fingers brushed against something rough in the barn's shadows, a leather collar, half buried under straw, its buckle rusted, the word Buddy etched in faded letters. Her breath caught, the name a spark in the quiet. She held it up, the leather heavy with time, and a memory flickered in Shadow's eyes. A boy's voice calling, "Buddy," laughter bright as sunlight, hands gentle on his fur before the world turned cold. Shadow's ears perked, his gaze locking on the collar, body still, but not retreating. Ellie whispered, "Buddy," her voice soft as a prayer, testing the name. He didn't flinch, didn't growl, just watched her, his amber eyes softening like embers settling. The collar rested in her lap, a relic of trust betrayed, now a bridge to something new. Ellie's heart swelled. She was reaching him, step by trembling step. The autumn sun hung low, painting the farmhouse yard in hues of amber and rust. Ellie tossed a stick across the brittle grass, her giggle sharp against the crisp air. Shadow hesitated, his scarred frame tense, then bounded after it, his tail giving a tentative wag. The stick landed near the barn, and he snatched it, trotting back with a glint in his eyes that hadn't been there before. Ellie clapped, her laughter spilling like water over stones, warming the chill around them. Shadow dropped the stick at her feet, his head tilted, almost playful. Grandma Rose watched from the porch, her lined face cracking into a rare smile, as if the house itself exhaled. Ellie knelt, offering a piece of bread from her hand. Shadow took it gently, his warmth brushing her fingers, the farmhouse alive with a spark of joy that felt like home. The porch creaked under the weight of evening, the autumn sky bruised with twilight. Ellie sat on the steps, her knees drawn up, the air sharp with the scent of fallen leaves. Shadow, once a shadow himself in the barn's corners, padded closer, his paws silent on the warped wood. He paused, eyes searching hers, then lowered his scarred frame and rested his head in her lap. Ellie's breath hitched, her fingers hovering before settling on his fur, soft despite its scars. A tear slipped down her cheek, warm against the chill, as Shadow's warmth seeped into her. He licked her hand, a slow, deliberate gesture, his amber eyes steady, unguarded. The farmhouse's whispers faded, replaced by a quiet pulse between them. Ellie stroked his head, whispering, "We're okay now," her voice trembling with the weight of their shared surrender, a bond sealed in the dusk's fragile light. Night cloaked the farmhouse, the moon a thin sickle casting jagged shadows across the yard. Shadow stirred beside Ellie's bed, his ears pricked, a low growl rumbling in his throat. He paced to the window, hackles raised, barking sharply at the fence line where darkness seemed to shift. Ellie woke, heart racing, peering into the night but seeing only the sway of bare branches. Mr. Harrow's house loomed across the field, its lights dim, but his silhouette lingered too long at the gate, his smile from earlier, now a memory that chilled her. Shadow's growls deepened, his body taut, sensing a threat Ellie couldn't name. The farmhouse's walls seemed to close in, the air heavy with warning. Ellie clutched Shadow's collar, her whisper shaky. "What's out there, boy?" The night held its breath, and so did she. The kitchen was thick with the scent of burnt toast, the only sound the clink of forks as Ellie's family ate in silence. Grandma Rose's hands trembled, her fork dropping as she mumbled, "The boy. He never came back." Shadow, curled by Ellie's chair, lifted his head, a growl vibrating low in his chest. Ellie's heart skipped, her eyes darting to Rose, whose gaze was lost in the table's grain. Later, in Rose's cluttered room, Ellie found a letter tucked in a Bible, its edges yellowed, words scrawled about a will and a boy named Daniel, her uncle. Shadow's growling spiked, his eyes fixed on the door, as if the past stood just beyond. A flashback hit, Shadow shielding a boy from angry shouts, a door slamming. Ellie's hands shook, the letter heavy with Rose's guilt, her fear mirroring Shadow's. The house's secrets were cracking open, and danger felt close. Ellie clutched the letter, its words a pulse in her hands, as she slipped into the barn at dusk. Shadow trailed her, his ears pricked, a low snarl building. Footsteps crunched outside, deliberate, and Mr. Harrow's shadow filled the doorway, his usual smile gone, eyes sharp as flint. "Give me the letter, girl," he said, voice low, stepping closer. Shadow lunged forward, teeth bared, planting himself between Ellie and Harrow, his growl a warning that shook the air. Ellie's heart pounded, the letter's weight tying her to the boy, Daniel, her uncle, whose name Harrow spat like a curse. A memory flashed. Shadow snarling at a younger Harrow, protecting Daniel in this same barn. Harrow's hand twitched toward his pocket, but Shadow's stance held firm. Ellie's voice broke. "Leave us alone!" The standoff hung like a storm about to break. The truth of Harrow's betrayal laid bare. The barn's air hung heavy, dust motes settling like ash after Mr. Harrow's retreat. Ellie sat against a hay bale, the letter crumpled in her fist, her breath shallow. Shadow pressed close, his scarred flank warm against her side, his low whine a tether to the present. Her fingers found his fur, stroking gently, each touch a vow, "I won't let him hurt you." Shadow's amber eyes met hers, steady, no longer wary, as if he understood her unspoken promise. The farmhouse loomed beyond, its secrets no longer silent but raw, exposed. A flashback flickered, Shadow curling beside the boy, Daniel in this same barn, guarding him through a night of fear. Ellie hugged Shadow tighter, her whisper fierce. "We're in this together." The danger had passed for now, but the letter's weight lingered, their bond a shield against the shadows still circling. Dusk bled into the farmhouse's fields, the autumn sky a bruise of purple and gray. Shadow paced the yard, his hackles raised, ears swiveling toward the crunch of gravel beyond the fence. Ellie watched from the porch, the letter hidden in her jacket, its words, Daniel's will, Rose's guilt, burning in her mind. Mr. Harrow's truck idled at the field's edge, its headlights flickering like predators' eyes. Fresh footprints marred the mud near the basement door, too heavy for a passing deer. Shadow's growl was low, primal, his body taut as he stared into the dark. Ellie's heart thudded, the air thick with the scent of rain and menace. She gripped Shadow's collar, whispering, "He's back, isn't he?" The farmhouse seemed to hold its breath, its walls watching as danger crept closer, silent, but certain. The farmhouse was a shadow against the moonless night, its windows dark as closed eyes. Ellie clutched the letter, her pulse hammering, as Shadow's growl cut through the silence. A creak echoed from the kitchen, a door forced open. Mr. Harrow's flashlight beam sliced the hall, his boots heavy on the floorboards. Ellie grabbed Shadow's collar, bolting for the barn, her bare feet stinging on the cold ground. Shadow's hackles bristled, his body low, guiding her through the dark. Harrow's voice hissed, "I know you're here, girl," his light sweeping the yard. Shadow's growl betrayed their hiding spot behind a stack of hay bales. Ellie's breath caught, the letter a burning weight in her pocket. The barn's walls closed in, the air thick with danger, as Harrow's shadow loomed closer. The threat no longer a whisper but a scream. Shadow's snarl erupted, a primal roar, as he lunged from the hay, teeth bared, planting himself between Ellie and Mr. Harrow. His scarred frame trembled with fury, eyes blazing like twin fires in the dark. Harrow froze, his flashlight dropping, his hand fumbling for something in his coat. Ellie screamed, "Mom! Dad!" Her voice piercing the night, the letter clutched tight. Shadow held his ground, hackles high, a memory flashing, protecting Daniel from this same man, years ago, in this same barn. Ellie's parents burst in, Tom's shout breaking the standoff. Harrow stumbled back, cursing, and fled into the night. Ellie sank to her knees, Shadow pressing against her, his warmth a shield. The letter fell open, revealing Daniel's will, naming Ellie's family as heirs, Rose's silence a shield for guilt. Ellie hugged Shadow, choosing him as he chose her, their bond a defiant stand against the past. Dawn crept over the farmhouse, its light soft as a whisper, washing the barn in hues of gold and gray. Ellie sat slumped against a hay bale, Shadow's head resting on her lap, his breath warm and steady. Her parents hovered nearby, Tom's hand on her shoulder, Anna's eyes red with worry and relief. Grandma Rose stood at the barn door, her voice frail, confessing Daniel's story. Her son, lost to a fight with Harrow, his will hidden to protect the family's claim. The letter lay open, its truth heavy, but freeing. The farmhouse's walls seemed to sigh, their secrets exhaled at last. Ellie's fingers traced Shadow's scars, her touch slow, each stroke a quiet promise of safety. The world felt fragile, but they had survived. The dawn a gentle reprieve from the night's terror. Days unfolded softly, the farmhouse no longer a cage, but a home, breathing with life. Ellie and Shadow wandered the autumn fields, her steps light, his tail wagging like a metronome. She shared bits of apple, his jaws gentle as he took them from her hand, their eyes meeting in quiet understanding. Shadow followed her to the school bus each morning, waiting at the gate until she returned, his presence a steady anchor. Grandma Rose joined them sometimes, her memory sharper, her stories of Daniel weaving a tapestry of love and loss. The farmhouse's creaks felt warmer now, its dust settling like forgiveness. Ellie's sketches filled with Shadow's form, his scars a map of their shared healing. Each glance, each touch, wove their bond tighter, a silent dance of trust that mended the fractures of their hearts. Ellie knelt in the farmhouse yard, the autumn grass crisp under her knees, the air sharp with the scent of frost. Shadow sat before her, his amber eyes bright, scars softened by the morning light. She held the old leather collar, its faded buddy, now polished to a soft gleam, a relic of pain, turned promise. Her fingers trembled as she fastened it around Shadow's neck, the buckle clicking like a door unlocking. He nudged her hand, his nose warm, a low whine rising, as if to say he was hers, and she his. They stood, walking side by side across the fields, their shadows merging in the sun's glow. The farmhouse stood quiet, its secrets bared, its walls no longer whispering fear. Ellie's heart lifted, the color's weight a symbol of trust reborn, their bond a quiet triumph over the past.